Hello once again, thanks for watching this video, and as ever, if you find the stuff I do on YouTube interesting, be them about music, electronics, technology, retro tech, whatever, please hit the subscribe button. It really does help the channel to grow. And if you hit the little bell icon, then you will also be notified on the next video that comes up. Now, today's video is not a video this morning I was even considering making because I kind of didn't know this was going to be a thing. However, because around 200,000 of you did watch my last video on the subject, and because it's been mentioned to me by a few people now who have closer connections to the music industry than I do, that The Who, or people from The Who, did see my last video, I kind of thought, well, I may as well do a follow-up now because things have changed, and things have changed, in my view, not for the better. Now, Pete Townshend's done a post on the internet, on social media earlier today, and it goes as follows. After many years of great work on drums from Zak, the time has come for a change, a poignant time. Zak has a lot of new projects in hand, and I wish him all the best. Scott Devereux, I do apologise if I've mispronounced his name, who has worked with Roger's solo band, will join The Who for our final shows. Please welcome him. Now, these shows The Who are doing in America, these farewell shows, they would have been booked over a year ago. So they have to happen. When you're a major name like The Who or any artist, you're in contracts, you have to deliver, because you're not only providing work for the band, there's the crew, there's the venues, there's the riggers, there's the drivers, there's everything that's involved. And to be fair to The Who, when John Entwistle died, the main reason The Who carried on that tour in 2002 was because they knew they had a staff of well over 100 people that were relying on that tour for their work for probably most of their year's income, because it was a big tour. So they had to carry on. And with this tour that The Who have booked now, this farewell tour in America, they've got to deliver. So I can see straight away that tour has to happen. There's no question of it not happening, because too many people, it'd be catastrophic for everybody involved. Whenever a major tour is cancelled, it is catastrophic for everybody involved, especially now at the higher level, because concert tours are so much bigger now than they ever were. So I can see why the tour's going ahead, but this statement, so Scott, who plays the drums in Roger's band, is going to do The Who. Well, if they haven't got Zak, that's fair enough, because he's obviously the most qualified person to do that job, with the exception of maybe Simon Phillips, who, you know, did that tour, the 89 tour. But no, I think if someone's already on tour with Roger Daltrey, and they would have done all the Who stuff anyway, because Roger's solo band did Tommy, because I went to that show at the Albert Hall. So yeah, that's fine. But then there's been a curveball, and the curveball has happened from Zak Starky, because Zak Starky has posted, and I will quote from his post. I was fired 2 weeks after reinstatement and asked to make a statement saying I'd quit The Who to pursue my other musical endeavours, and this would be a lie. I love The Who and would never have quit, so I don't make the statement. Quitting The Who would have let down the countless amazing people who stood up for me, thank you all a million times over and more, through the weeks of mayhem of me going in and out, in and out, and in and out like a bleeding squeeze box. So there you have it. It's come directly from Zak, that he obviously made that first initial post that he'd been sacked from The Who. then he'd been reinstated, and now he's been sacked again. And I think this is massively sad. Now, I had loads of comments on my last video, and I do apologise I didn't reply to all of them, but it was well over 1,500 of them. And not to put too fine a point on it, there was a lot of comments from absolute idiots. And when I say idiots, these are people that leave comments like, The Who haven't been The Who since John Entwistle died, or it's not The Who without Keith Moon, or I've seen The Who loads of times, but you've never seen them with Keith Moon, so you've never seen The Who. All this sort of rubbish that you get from people who probably actually never have seen The Who anyway. But the point is this, really. This is The Who's last tour. I don't think there's going to be any more gigs after these American ones. I know there's been rumours that they might do other stuff. It's possible there might be another Teenage Cancer Trust gig or something next year. That's always a possibility. But when The Who ended in 1982, they ended in America. They ended big. They ended playing arenas and stadiums. And that's what The Who are doing this time. They're playing big American venues. Because at the end of the day, most of the British bands of the British invasion were massive in America. And America is where their audience really is. You know, The Who played Hyde Park a couple of times. They played Wembley Stadium not that long ago, talking in more recent times. But everything's so much bigger in the States. So I think The Who ending in the States is probably kind of the expected thing, really. That's where the Who are at. But it is absolutely sad as anything that Zak's not going to be there. Zak's been in The Who for 29 years. He's been in The Who way longer than Keith Moon had, way longer than Kenny Jones, way longer than Simon Phillips. And, I'm going to get haters for this, but I'm sorry, Zak is a much better drummer than Keith Moon ever was. Keith Moon was great at being Keith Moon, but Zak is several notches higher. He is a phenomenal musician. He's one of the great British drummers. And for this not to have been cleared up is really sad. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of whose decision it was. I have my own theory about whose decision it was. And I think if you look at the postings over from Pete's Instagram account and from the Who Facebook page, you can probably work your own mind out about who wanted the sacking and maybe who might not have wanted the sacking. But either way, The Who are going to end this year. The Who are going to end without Zak playing in the band, which is sad. But it's also really sad The Who are going to end, because for me, they are the absolute embodiment of what being in a rock band is all about. And I had a few hate comments in my last video when I said that I thought at the time The Who were the best band at Live Aid. But for me at the time they were, and I will stand by that. I will still stand The Who were absolutely phenomenal at Live Aid. And Roger Daltrey is the greatest frontman of any rock band, period, as far as I'm concerned. He wipes the floor with everyone. Roger Daltrey is fantastic. Pete Townsend is the absolute epitome of what a great rock guitar player is. He's not too flash. He just delivers. He's just amazing. And we don't have Keith and we don't have John. And John obviously was one of the greatest bass players that ever walked this earth. But The Who were lucky in that they were able to get Pino Palladino and then John Button, who are both fantastic players. And I think John Button really suited the band really well. And, him playing with Zak is a real powerhouse rhythm section. But we're not going to get that now. We're just going to get Roger and Pete bowing out in America. And I got to say, I'd really like to still go and see them. And I might do. I might still pluck up the courage to get on a plane. I don't really do flying. I'm pretty petrified of it. I've never really travelled much in my life. I've been to a few places over the years, and I have been to America, but that was over 20 years ago. And you know, I don't really go much further. You know, London's probably the furthest I ever travel to these days. But I would, you know, if the opportunity happened, I would go to America and see the Who for the last time, because they mean so much to me. That, you know, they are just the great rock band. But I just think it's just incredibly sad what has happened with this story. And it would be amazing if, you know, they all made up, and even if at the very last gig of the tour Zak comes on to do the encore, even if they did that, it would be something. But I can't see that happening now, and it's sad, because, you know, this marks the end of the Who, but, you know, we've only got 5 years, really, I can see, of all those legendary rock artists still touring. I think in 5 years' time, we're probably not going to see David Gilmour or Roger Waters touring anymore. I think Roger's probably retired anyway. I think David may do one more tour, because he's obviously making an album at the moment. We're never going to see Led Zeppelin on stage again. The Stones are probably going to do some more stuff, but probably not for very long. I think McCartney probably won't be touring in 5 years' time. I don't think Ringo will be doing his all-star band in 5 years' time. I mean, great if they were able to. And even the rest of all the classic rock artists, you know, we're probably not going to see Deep Purple. We're probably not going to see... I mean, we might see the remaining members of Queen for a little bit longer, but not for too much. You know, this whole catalogue of what is referred to as classic rock has been around for 60 years. And yes, there was a period of time where a lot of these bands didn't do much, particularly in the sort of the 80s and the 90s, perhaps, when they were slightly out of fashion. I mean, the Who kind of gave up touring properly in 82. They didn't come back until 89, and then just did one tour. And then it wasn't until towards the end of the 90s that they got back on the road. But we're not going to see these bands around. And I always feel it would be great when bands split up, that they split up on a high. I mean, one band that did that brilliantly was the British Gothic rock band The Mission. When they decided to split up in 2008, they did 4 nights at Shepherd's Bush Empire, and they based each night on the first 4 albums. And it was the current lineup, along with Simon Hinkler guesting with them. And those shows were brilliant, although we all knew that that was basically them ending that lineup, and the original lineup was going to get back together for their 25th anniversary 3 years later, and that's exactly what happened. But for the Who, as I said in the last video, if they decide to, say, do, I don't know, 2 or 3 nights in London, I mean, the Shepherd's Bush Empire would be great, because Shepherd's Bush obviously is where the Who started out. I mean, if they were to do 3 nights there with, you know, just playing to fans, and maybe, obviously they'll film it and release it and whatnot, but, you know, that would be a fitting way to go. Or even if they just did, you know, a stadium gig next summer or something. I mean, that would be a possibility. But to sort of wimp out by doing a bunch of shows in the States and then that's it, I just think it's just not, it just doesn't sit right with me. I think I'd love to see the Who just do something just that little bit more spectacular. But then, you know, this is the Who. And the Who have never really been on the whole sort of convention of the way they do things. They've just done what they've done. And yeah, they've had this squabble, they've lost their drummer, and it's really sad. But that's what's happened. So, you know, God bless the Who. I think it's next month, or it might be the end of this month, I can't remember now. But I will be going to the opening night of the Quadrophenia Ballet, because I can literally walk to it from where I live. and I'll be doing a review of that, which you'll be able to see on PeteTownsend.net, and that might be the last time I ever see anything that is genuinely part of the Who's history, and that's pretty sad, because, as I said before, the gig at the Royal Albert Hall was a good gig. They just had problems with their sound, and you know, they had two monitor engineers there, and I'll be honest, they didn't seem to be on their game at all. They certainly weren't keeping an eye on things, and that's evident with what happened. But anyway, that's that. So yeah, that's my kind of thoughts on this. It's not a video I wanted to make, but I kind of feel, because of the last one, it's a video I should probably do. So there you go. That's it. Catch you on the next one.